강기 두진이 손에 따와 담지 방비체를 담비춘 된제 과담텔라 창슬로 간식 섹션 송바 이켄다 땜발라는 자와 된제죠. 섹션 동바텔란. Good afternoon, all my friends. 네. 이 로봇 가시 칠레셔 대시마키 문도. 딜라베.
Good afternoon to my new friends and my old friends. They're Dini and Pudu.
네. 아니 당갈은 주주 당부도 제가라 기란게 산지 좀 된데 콜레야 계지 시고레스 라원 당이 시고로 왔으라.
So I've been asked to give a talk today at 1:30, and now it's 1:30, and to give a talk about Buddha Shakyamuni.
들다 나는 베베기 로토스거라 다 베베기 로토시 송지온디 아니 드링 뒤뒤디 아니 산지 좀 된디게 더 남터는 마음이 아니 믹스에 직 차고레스 남터 믹스와 직 차고레스.
According to the Tibetan calendar, the Tibetan lunar calendar, today is a special day in the biography of Buddha Shakyamuni.
나 가르레스 라운드 자위기 산지 좀 된디 당주 용자라야 아니 야가파비열라야 총바레스 라 담보 없고 담사티 야가파비열레스 티 용자레스라 단 잠블리라 용자 이내야 단 대상 직직게 산지 좀 된디 야가라 총마레 네발리라야 총레스 세 말딘디 갈라케지 팅이 총 딘디 시르다 카요 말다 니마 라 론니동 조기 공기 산지 꽃총사가 사자디 대상 아니 비기 산점 아니 네팔리게 산상을 나로 여바인장 그 아니 제야야기 시차로도 왔으러 차고라 시나야 급 두디 론니동 조기 공라 아니 사자디 레야 야가 사자지 미마도 패신 아니 야가다 네팔리니 록스 도지 ngesamna yosa mares tinza ta yons tawa jagala ya thon se de tindi ji to ne ta an lahu yosar samgu dos.
Buddha Shakyamuni, a famous being throughout our world, was born. These days, we'd say he was born in India, and India is known as the Arya land, the land of noble beings. And so these days, there's the place where Buddha Shakyamuni was born. This is agreed, a place called Lumbini. But these days, it's in Nepal, whereas we say Buddha was born in India. But now, in modern times, the boundaries have been set such that the place of Lumbini is in Nepal. But we still tend to say it was India that he was born in 2,600 years ago. But how exactly the maps were aligned at the time, it's not entirely certain, and what countries existed at that time wouldn't be the same as today. Nevertheless, whilst he was born in modern day Nepal in a place called Lumbini, we say Buddha was born in India.
他因为那样，他用着这不见面话题，你卡里尔斯朗的，上去中间的的上级啥个啥子的，也个多一点，他了但咱不能那里这不见有嘛的是，也吃家的嘛，上去中间的个被这不伢们那路途搞介啥，天天我不做不上级啥。天天我不做上级才接了呀，上级中间的可能个看样是那边个缺的，都下了嘛，但是个有地的，家个人吃过的是，就天上的家个的，搞对的那家个的，这不是有嘛的话是。
Whilst discussion, animated discussion can be had as to whether Buddha was born in India or in Nepal. Where there is no such discussion is where he attained enlightenment. And that was the place of Bodh Gaya, which is and was in India. So about that, there's no doubt, complete agreement. And also the sequence of events and their historical location. There's also no discussion about that. In that, in a nearby wooded area, Buddha spent 6 years in engaging in fasting retreat and various other austerities. And thereafter, he went to Bodh Gaya, where he attained full and complete enlightenment. So about this place and its nationality or which nation it is part of, there is no discussion.
对的，他做的，你中间的个路途了呀，被他各界修治那样了是吧？各修治这样了，天天他냠는 가르쳐요 세. 그 두디 좀 된 얘기다 곰갸르다. 까와치 곰갸르다. 다 가르 곰요래 세. 다 개체주 대자고레스. 좀된 데 가르 곰요레스 라운디. 좀된 데기 아니 장바다 인지 다 잔주 그 셈세. 아니 추남기 내루 탈투바티. 로. 즉 디니디 다 송드제니 아니 삼로 쇼지단제니 아니 디기 삼로라야다 뇽한테 여버디 디 삼로된 탈치 여버디 다등고요레스
Tini lo tuk de in nanglola, konjampa ninchi da ngoi netuk,
동반이다
de dompani,
무변내루스는
yeah?
동반이라고 하라
Ire, di sumki kola, gomgyapsonge, lo tuk de nanglola.
야차야
In the period leading up to Buddha's enlightenment in Bodh Gaya, he endured great hardships whilst engaging in meditation. So what's of primary importance for us is what types of meditation, or what was Buddha Shakyamuni, or the being that was soon to become Buddha Shakyamuni, what meditations was he engaging in? Well, he was meditating on a number of topics, primarily amongst them cultivating love. He was meditating on compassion, and these two combining into the mind of enlightenment, or bodhicitta itself. And in addition to meditating on love, compassion, and bodhicitta, Buddha Shakyamuni meditated on the way phenomena exist in reality. In other words, he meditated on emptiness. That's all.
terda tanyenji sewanyenji chembo gomondi 당고요 담 문tum비게 세원인지 첨보치 세와지 공바이나 배낭고요 담 문tum 와산다 아니 즉 초리 쟁기 인지지 공바이나 아니 상기야디 세원인이 다 연구 말했어 다 상기 좀된 디기 초리 매비 탐젤래야 아니 찍었다 투약이 인지도 공으로 왔어 탐젤래야 찍었다 투약이 인지도 공원디 착당 초리 로디 가로 거래스. 라. 다 착당 초리 로든 가로디 아니 지금 로다 장부 쇼질이야. 따트 거래스. 아니 뭐여 니순 통온디 아니 마리바 세야다. 아니 지 control ngaje chagdo ransom la sobi lui yong su zoba se ani panche ni sempa de zama zangja ro sun thongba yana ani chobo tawo nami tawo nyenji ma do ani chi jado ji zaw ni sigiyo mares ro
The meditation on great compassion, for it to be an actual meditation on great compassion, it has to be a mind free of any form of bias. If one meditates on compassion, but has bias or preference in one's mind, in other words, compassion towards some, but not others, then with such partiality, it will not be possible to attain Buddhahood. So therefore, even prior to that meditation on compassion, the Buddha would have cultivated an impartial attitude towards all beings, holding them in a way that is equanimous, free of any form of partiality or bias. This meditation of partiality, which is the basis upon which the meditation on compassion is built, is also aided by companion meditations on understanding reality, cultivating the wisdom, realizing emptiness. And to the extent that one cultivates the wisdom realizing emptiness, all minds that afflict one, or all emotions that are destructive, these get reduced and eventually eliminated. So minds such as anger, jealousy, and competitiveness, these all get eradicated by the cultivation of the wisdom realizing emptiness. And this, as these afflictions get eradicated, the mind becomes ever purer and clearer. Eventually, when emptiness has been realized, then this aids the cultivation of compassion, in that once the realization of emptiness aids the understanding of impartiality, the eradication of bias, and leaves one feeling a sense of deep closeness, a feeling of intimacy with everyone, and equally so. It's as if everyone that one encounters, whether directly or even in thought, is a close and dear friend. So this then aids the generation of actual compassion, this mind of deep closeness towards all without exception. That's all.
다 좀 된들이야 초리 매버디 초리기 삼로 용수 빵여버디 이 로르기죠서 로르기 tun동지 좀 된데 통마 야볼이야 비기 포단란 총 아니 되니 gassic sembarwas
Yasik?
wancha the sembarwas gabi wancha lembarwas ani ta sada yore ani sichik chong yores chomden de the gonlo nyu changas kawlaya ani khonlaya phujik do ani khonla la ya tanda pebis the pingya do da phajik majik pingya marda ta linjin seji korangi cousin sigda cousin ji yorwas ani the cousin ti khonlaya khaddu ina dansam da chagdo da pe ani never janjang gigiyores yinba ina ya ani chomden de nimachigla ya kholaya khongro saya da kholaya ngensam chanji shongyo mares chigiyo mares su khadusigi pe ani never tamba ina ya chomden de chongya ge tabshi mamuchiyores ina ya ani 디 뇌시 디기 좀된 디기 셈바 싸우니는 촉요 말했어 좀된 디기 투디베 아니 뇌시글이야 지 콩로 사야도다 딘디 싸우니는 촉요 말했어 종 매버 마세 코랑기 분난신기 아니 현전라야 제비 제와 연구하랬어 제와 연구 디 빵다 가르살 유구 렌진슈 진 나친 로 나서 두자슈 포가들라야 아니 좀 된 뒤에 댄식 세다 좀된 뒤에
Didn't
가서 아니 나 렌진당 나랑 그부 세 다젠질이야 다 수직과 지게 매나 아니 나 디 여바이나 다 수직과 지게 여바이나 렌진 단다란 나사들 차워쇼스 자그리 자고기스 매나 아니 나사드 나라 용어쇼스 딘디기 람니 두스치 치온디기 테마타도 아니 렌진 나사들 트로바레스
그렇소. The being that would go on to become the Buddha, he, from his biography, there are stories that showed how his mind was so impartial, how he was freed of any shade of bias. So to share a story, recount a story, we know that the Buddha was born into a royal family. He was born a prince, and he grew up in a palace, and he later married and had a child, a son. When he was about 25, he became a father. And throughout his life, he had a cousin who deeply despised him, who was incredibly jealous and competitive towards at that time the prince, the later Buddha. And this cousin despised the Buddha really from the depths of his heart. He was regularly enraged at the Buddha, tried to harm him on a number of occasions, and he even plotted many devious plans to try and kill the being that would eventually be the Buddha. And this went on for many, many, many years. But the way the Buddha responded was never based on any form of anger, not even slight annoyance or frustration. But the Buddha only responded skillfully, with kindness and with care. Never once got angry or frustrated at his cousin, no matter what his cousin did towards him, how vicious and vile he spoke or acted towards the Buddha. The Buddha only responded with kindness and with care. And there was an instance once where his cousin, where a severe illness befell his cousin, and the Buddha then spoke words of truth and said, if I do not care for my cousin equally as I do my own child, if I do not love them both equally sincerely, may his illness befall me. But if I do love them both equally, may he be healed of his illness. And through these words, through the power of these words being true, so the power of the truth of these words, his cousin healed. That's all.
다들이 진짜 딘디기에 아니 다 닌지티 곰니 탈치 여기 반다디 니차고레스 다 닌지 칸르지 초그리 메비 닌지디 칸르지 곰바레스 라운디 칸르지 곰바레스 라운디 자위기 닌지 옹세디 동하다 찬 치마루 냠비 로티 강라 믹사기 피기기 소댕기 강자디 아니 동하다 찬 치마루 냠비 로디 닌지 옹 딘디지레스 다 아니 소차 간르지 임바이나야 동한 되고 매바다 대원 되고 여바디 랑다 찍바찍냥 차고라스 딘자 랑라 동한 존나 문데바 나시 젠 간자 순다지라야 동한 존나 문데바디 되고 매바 기부 매바 가오 매바디 균신 찍바찍냥라스 딘자 동한 문데비 간자 간르지네 텔라 동한 만조나 찌마로 냠비 로디 탐질을 따 외워봐지다 따 초야지 차고레스 딘지 로직 여봐이나 다 초그리 메비 인지 차고레스로 디좀 된데 투기를 여레스
How did the Buddha, did subsequent generations of practitioners strive to cultivate compassion, a compassion that's free of any shade of bias, and a compassion that's developed like the Buddha did to a level of perfection where it is in its most expansive form. Well, the meditator needs to come to understand with perfect clarity suffering in all its various expressions and its causes, and then give rise to that wish to be freed of suffering and its causes. And then with this, give rise through the understanding that this wish to be freed of all forms of suffering is something shared by each and every being equally. In other words, every single being, no matter who they are, yearns to be completely freed of suffering. And moreover, one develops a deep understanding that not only do beings have this wish, but they have the capacity. And moreover, there is no reason that can be found why any being, no matter who they are and how they're acting, there's no reason that can be found that says that any being is not equally deserving of freedom from suffering as any other. So seeing all these points on a deep level, a fundamental level, so that they arise within one and abide stably, seeing that all beings, there is no difference between them on any level. At a fundamental level, we are all the same. At a course level, there are differences. At a fundamental level, there are none. All of us yearn for happiness, freed from suffering. We all have the capacity to achieve such a state, and there is no justification for some being more worthy than others. So this is the indispensable foundation to cultivate actual compassion. From this, real compassion arises. Russell.
Tirda, the Dindi Lodi and Ganzu Julaya Kandas Kigores, right? Nyamyon Kandas Tangores, Lavana. The Nimataba Samdango Ezredas, right? And the Nimataba Suzuki be Kala Sayada, Tonya Tuzu, Tuzupe, and a Pashani, and it Samlo Ditolaya Tami. The low true Rilaya Jewandi, Nyon Tangoras. Things and Ganzu. Ni kanji nganzo ta nambi thela ya shugbai na chomden di jinju yin sambai na ngebor de samdang go da sera ni ma ta ba samdang go da shoge samdang ningo samdang gonda samdang chen samdang ba ni ko de kaddu na samdang na kanji sosu tembe na lo la simjan tamji dongan de me ba ta dewan de ba chi gyu yin ba dongan jonna ran nanshingi mendeba chigba imba di ani temba nyewa shago wasares anzudra ta desan temba nyesha gomya di ani kyap chenbu shu sungorara temba nyewa shaya gi zo di tirenda da samja tamji gi dewa degu yoba samja tamji gi dongan degu meba ran da chigba imba di temba la shatu ba na sem la yoba na an kawan ro kawa dena ya su chigla ya ani manne ba 팸 마토나 내 마기바기 차와지 땡땡 제도가 사레스 간선은 추 내봤다나 기부 매번 난시 파 내봤다나 파셔 기부 연구 말했으면 상도 되나 아니 이제는 내봤당 말아서라 딘자 샘나노라야 템발라야 닌지옴 딘디기 상도 되어봐이나 오늘 자와 가르쳐 봐이나로 장부 덴바 좀 되는 난시 제도가 사레스 nganzu matu ya di ngatsu neba tangsenge pa leje samsam de jora te di ngone nganzu ta ingyu suzu namju ka tan dang mebe ta ro ji ya ya ta mare shas ro di nganzu ha ko go da ta ro nganzu suzu namju ka dang meba di ha ko wa na suzu namju ya pe ya ki tabshi kariyore di setu ro an suzu chia de dikte sam ro de wa na 아니 가두이나 되네 작당 유목이 초수 홍록이었어리스
Then for ourselves, how should we strive? How should we train train our minds so as to generate compassion? How should we train our minds so that we can gain experience of compassion? Well, if we do genuinely consider ourselves to be followers of the Buddha, we should follow in his footsteps as best we can. So when he abided in the forest for 6 years, engaging in great hardships so as to cultivate minds such as compassion within him, he put aside eating and drinking and did nothing but meditate. So for us, this is a little further than we can do, but what we can do is that all day and every day, we ensure our mind is abiding with compassion. Our mind is always active, and we can use that mind, no matter what we are doing, to ensure that we go over some of the key points in this meditation, repeating them again and again so as to create a deep habituation to them. And this certainly one can do in meditation, but also in between meditations. Reminding ourselves at all times how all sentient beings, whoever I'm seeing, whichever sentient being sound I'm hearing, or who I'm even thinking of, all sentient beings are at a fundamental level exactly the same, no different from me, in wanting to be freed of suffering, wanting to live a life abiding in happiness, with a mind at peace, at ease. We are all the same. So you would have heard about meditations on mindfulness, and a particular type of Buddhist meditation, close placement of mindfulness. Well, that is a technique that can be used here, where one keeps oneself very mindful of this thought that all beings, all of us, are at this fundamental level identical. There is no difference between us on this fundamental level. Use that as a basis for further thoughts, such as, I will not cause harm to others. Whomever I encounter, whether directly or indirectly, in other words, for example, one thinks of someone, I will not have any harmful thoughts towards them. And when I meet them directly, I will ensure that I do not speak or act in a way that may cause them any upset or harm at all. And thinking like this again and again serves to build a habit, to ingrain it within oneself. So there are a number of thoughts, as mentioned also in the previous segment, and one keeps reminding oneself again and again. And one does so when one's alone, and when one does so then, to the extent that one does so when you're alone, it's very easy to do so due to habituation when you're with others. And this then will deeply influence how you interact with others, how you speak to them, how you act around them. This is how one trains one's mind, training one's mind to the extent where it becomes integrated to one's personality, integral to one's very being. That's all.
Dire, ranganzu mi shembajigi suji ro neba tangwai na lamsang nganzu sem di chok ro dasra lamsang sem di nganzu yik chok ro ta kanji nöje ki dungar ki yik chok ba di ta digyo mares nöje kandaji leba ina ya susu sem di tembu de tu ya chi sogo dasra nöje 소술은 춘내바 간다질래바 있느냐 소수 샘도 템부 데토야지 소에요레스타라 디 소바 있나 수무그 수 독자다 가를 라바 있느냐 아니 마기바 연구 말레스 이익심바 연구 말레 로펌바 연구 말레 아 마데바 연구 말레 니 마쿠바 연구 말레스 간선 소수 샘디 아니 템부 착부 쇼지 데토거라 그 대리 내바치나야 산이 내바치비 내바요 말아 단다 가오면야 공다 초보차야 레와요로 그 메다바레스라 그 깨치깨지라야 규르고요라 딱바 땡보치는 피기라야 뇌제피 아니 리다오친 대지 자원이 요 말스라라 진지 상담 와이나 뇌제 간다질래 와이나야 야갈라 그래 छोड़ सीधा धीरे वो दिन चागो सर nganzo nyeshi leon di lamsa ani sem tu ready nganzo sem gu jondar di ani ce long me wanza ro direshas.
And if one applies oneself with consistency to this training, doing so all day, every day, you become ever more habituated to this way of thinking, and you have the basis to take it ever deeper within. Developing the determination that however anyone acts towards me, I will keep my mind stable. I will keep my mind stable in that. I will keep my compassion foremost in my mind. I will not continue as I've been living this life thus far, that when someone looks at me in a way I don't like, that my mind becomes agitated, or speaks to me just in a tone that I don't like. Immediately I have doubts and suspicion about them, let alone if someone's angry at me or speaks badly behind my back. I now make the commitment that I will keep compassion at the forefront of my heart and thereby in my mind, and make sure that no matter what situation I encounter, no matter what someone says or does to me, I'll keep my compassion stable. So one needs to set this determination and repeat it using reasonings again and again. And in this way, it will start to happen. Because one will come to then recognize that one will now start to experience others acting towards one in a way that previously would have led to you getting upset. But now you keep compassion foremost in your heart, and you're no longer upset by those same words, that same sideways glance, the same speaking behind one's back. Those things that before upset you now don't. Rather, you just feel tenderness, a closeness towards others, no matter what they do. And what this will mean, or what this will do rather, is will give you ever greater confidence to continue. And you will do so, with this confidence, you'll strive in your meditation, because you're experiencing the effect, which is your mind is always at ease. Your mind is always at peace, with compassion abiding within. No matter what others say or do, your mind stays happy. Your mind stays at ease. You do not need to struggle to sleep. You enjoy all your meals. You're never unhappy or dispirited. And a further technique to use in your meditation is to recall impermanence. You will be aware that there are people with whom you have a difficult relationship with. There's something about you that sets them off. In the past, when you disliked them, because now you have a compassionate attitude, you care for all equally. But in the past, there was something about them that you didn't like. But that has changed now because you've changed your mind. So from your side, you don't dislike them anymore. So you see their impermanence, that how relationships are not how they will always be. So likewise, you can hold in mind that just because you seem to trigger someone, that won't always be the case. In time, your relationship will become close and dear from their side too. And here the Australian expression of no worries is very good. Whatever others do towards you, have that as your attitude. No problem. And you let it go. You don't take it personally. You don't take it as a slight, but you rather keep the compassionate mind dominant. Lasoken.
Teresa kanji susu sem di susu dabo jamatuna nganzu meze kanza kanga reshas ro magi bache ani de ju kesares da susu sem di susu dabo jatu bayna kadina lele chen kipu chen ro karin tong bayna ya ro namma gi masane sakka shawayna ya ro sem dabo jatuna kan yosamares.
Our mind is our own responsibility. It is our own individual responsibility to take care of our own mind. When we recognize this and take up this responsibility and become skilled at caring for our own mind, in other words, keeping our mind stable, with compassion at the forefront, we will never be unhappy. We'll never get disturbed. Whereas now, when our mind is wild and loose, when we're not taking care of our own mind, we become unhappy and we harm others. By taking up this responsibility, taking care of our mind, we stay at peace. We don't sink into despair. We always stay light and comfortable. And this then has a deep impact on how we interact with others too. Lasso.
Ranganzum ta magiba soyadi sem dawo jamaduna lelaw perenta sira. Lelaw pe 미지기와 미지기 저런 인지부 문드슬라와나 남사 마기바 차고라스라 이 봐서 저런 인지부 문들라와나 소소 인지부 매워 차고 말아 소소 강인바 다가라 대고라스라 봐서 인지부 두슬라나 소소 강인바 대가 대게 인지부 문드슬라나 소소 강인바 대기로 알아 이나야 샘 다보 자마드나 람상페 아니 마기바 차기도 왔으라
If you really come to know yourself well, watch your mind, see how it works, you'll recognize that it's at the times when you're not taking care of your mind that you're vulnerable to becoming unhappy, upset. But if you are taking care of your mind, no matter what you encounter, you'll have no worries. So, for example, if someone says to you, "You're quite ugly," one's likely to get pretty upset from that. But the truth of the matter is, you're no uglier when they say that than you were a moment before or a week before. So all they're doing is expressing a point of view. Your physical looks have not changed. And if you're not taking care of your mind at that time, you're likely to react, perhaps get angry, feel really down on yourself. But if you're taking care of your mind, you'll just laugh it off. There'll be no worries. That's all.
오늘 당한 som당보다 들어 변한다 변나 오스트레일리아 길로 차사와나 마한체로 사마도 말다스라 저는 갱고 차사로 질라와나 콘도 둑다 쳐고다스라 아 저 갱고 차사는 콜로체 로마라 근데 갱고 차사는 로추스 파로고 위해서 로추 다라 테비 차로 위해서 차기도 아 이니 말아봤으라 인자 소수 샘 다보 잡도와나
And whilst it's not the case with everyone in Australia, it's pretty common that people don't like to have their age pointed out to them. People tend not to like to be called old. But the truth is, if someone says to you, "Oh, you've got old," it's not that suddenly in that moment you've added several decades. So here, if we're taking care of our mind, comments like this from others, we'll take them well. That will not add extra weight or meaning to them. They'll be like water off a duck's back. It will not harm us. And it's not that and our mind, though, stays light and at ease, not being troubled by such insignificant comments.
There is the kanji 산지점 된 뒤에 있다. 대리 산지점 된 뒤에 신 개발진진자. 배나 산지점 된 뒤에 있다. 생 남자 마부시도 왔어. 배나라 산지점 된 데라야 민 만드라 마부시도 아주 까까라야 망 지기 땜바 세거라. 남비 땜바 땜바스나 갈라 그래. 람딘 신지 말로바 제통인 데라야 땜바스. 어머나 아니지 최 남기 내룩디 우유 내주 신주 말로버 땡통이나 땡바스 근데 거기도 왔어.
Today is one of the special days relating to Buddha Shakyamuni's life story. So I'm using the term Buddha Shakyamuni, but he actually has many names or many titles used about him. One of them is the teacher or the founder teacher. And the meaning behind that name is that he illuminates the complete an unmistaken path for suffering beings to cultivate in their own mind. So these mental paths to cultivate in their own mind to attain enlightenment themselves. And a further meaning of this name teacher, so in English we'd write it with an uppercase T as a title. Another meaning of teacher is that Buddha Shakyamuni taught reality, taught how phenomena exist in reality. That's all.
당한주 남바 인스 라운디 남바 인스 라운디 가르라고 왔는데 아니 템버 좀 된데데 간주 템바레스 거다 간주 남바 인스 라운디 템버 좀 된데 간주 템바레스 간주레 람덴 나게 콩레스 라 간주레 람덴 나게 콩레스 라운디 가르고고 거래 간주 년사디 템버 좀 된데 람덴 라 년고 거레스 라 간주 남바 인스 랍체 소수 년사디 피길라야 아니 계제 독자랑에 좀마싱에 트루싱갱에 녀야 될nye tempa nganzu tempa I lamden nangi inslavana din gawa chago to asra gawa chago res
If we identify as Buddhists, we refer to ourselves as Buddhists. That has a meaning. It means that our teacher is Buddha Shakyamuni. And he is our teacher because he is the one who illuminated the complete and unmistaken path that those mental paths that we need to develop within to attain enlightenment. Being our teacher also means we listen to him. We listen to what he teaches. So by identifying yourself as a Buddhist, you're saying, I listen to what the Buddha teaches. This then means you do not listen to the nonsense that others talk. Those who want to criticize and find fault and talk a load of nonsense, those aren't the people that I listen to. I pay attention to Buddha Shakyamuni because I'm a Buddhist. That's all.
대답가가야 좀 된데서 그랬어. 좀 된데. 좀 슬라운디 가르 좀 바레슬라나. 아니 미싱기 균을 촉좀 첼라고 말했어. 랑기 유기 마리바 대차 콩토 나게 차도 랜섬로 소비 로용 소버 좀 인데려야 좀 세워레스. 아니 아니 니문 디왕기 중에 동har기 네 용순 데베나 아니 좀 된데스. 그래서 다른 간주 검바 이나라 배 야보도 왔어.
Then danda chomki kola chikbu sungsongi yamane yang dende.
네.
Yang de.
네.
Another a title or name that's given is in Tibetan it's chom dende. So this word chom means to destroy. So what is it that a Buddha has destroyed? Well, it's not buildings and homes and people, of course, but it refers to what actually causes what actually causes beings suffering. Our ignorance within our own mind, our attachment within our own mind, our anger, our pride, our jealousy, our competitiveness, all these varying individual minds that cause us pain and suffering, these have been destroyed. That's a chom, and the dende has gone beyond those. So they've been left behind. They do not abide anymore within a Buddha Bhagavan. That's all.
그래서 딘디 망보다 간지 좀 된 디기 아니 고송투기 연dengi 톨아야 삼로 가지 땅투바이나 캡산레샤스. 소수 기부 속을다가 지로 아니 좀 된 디기 고송투기 연den 마사마치 아니 지 랜섬로다 탁도로다 지금 나데 큐스도 진네 아니 상담은 로데바나 가드는더니 셈바 마데바 마기바지 용되고 살레스
Something you can observe within yourself. If you sit quietly and think about the many remarkable qualities of the Buddha, of his physical behavior, his speech, his mind, recalling these incredible qualities such as love, compassion, wisdom, kindness. This just brings happiness to one's mind. But if one is sitting quietly and rather complaining about someone, criticizing others, and having minds such as jealousy and pride dominant, one's only suffering. So we can see how thinking about, for example, the qualities of the Buddha brings peace to one's mind. Whereas complaining and criticizing and going on about what others have done and said, this just makes us unhappy. Lasso.
Terda Teri the Tering Nima de Karesla, the Chomden de Chida, and in Chongni, the Lord you Nalaya, Chomden de any Chongwi, Nima Dung Jelaya, and the Chomden de Mayam di Kushabares. Kusha was Nagora, the Chongbares.
So, Shakyatupa Jongsong.
Shakya to be Mayam Amala.
Amare, yum, ire. Ale, to Chinese, I'm not Shakyatupa Jongsong, the name is Hang Sang, the Jisapa.
Dung Jela, and Chomden de Mayam de Chong Chene. 아니 다 니마 dimlembi puguchara 다 puguchara 다 디 아니 좀된 디게 아미 핑잡 저라 안티티게 아니 냐바레스 라두 살롱총다 야가기 좀된 디 산 좀된 디 남터치 잡도와 레웅업 중아란도 레우슨 하고예 Leung up chung arrange the Nitsama Dame.
Up to Narang.
Ngapchung shitting angarjik do. Pay Yahutasha. Then he did Jevi jailer. Nisam Nalari, Nichum didn't tone on your chadish. Conjure pay Yahut Yagagi Yabu shoot up.
Then my own can Leo D. Sungiana. Did the bear.
La.
Kerang tanda Leo ki kola sung, then he kerang o Leo di pe nyampo tu maompa nge kerang so Leo di sungian. Kerang tanda di sung
Timare.
Then Leo ki kola kari sung
tonsons and tonsons. The gadget the church in tonsor pay Yahudos.
Then Leo di Shakyatupa ki namtad ne yena.
Ren konzu tabda, Yagagi tabda. Soda,
Gyaka kiapa chik di zomsong. Di.
Kunzu temoran söz.
Temo. Ale, okay, gosong.
Temo de ngegirwa. Leungab chung adan di nindan sen samal deim.
Teni gosa.
Nipala ya lan.
Re.
Deimba. Tadi.
Then di gosong. Then de kangla de ngola kerang dering sachen pore kanisa shakya tupa tungne kung ama nimadungi jela drongsong. Deni kong matsap kong la taro chesong debadu dungnanglo debadu. So today is a special day on the Buddha calendar because it marks that after the Buddha was, or when the Buddha was born, his mother died in childbirth, and 7 days later, when the Buddha was born, his mother died from childbirth 7 days later. And then the Buddha was actually raised by his aunt, his mother's sister. And actually, I saw what would you call this? A series, I suppose you'd say, a documentary series that was, it's not animated, but it's live action documentary series about Buddha Shakyamuni's life story. And I think it was episode 54 or 55. Which recounted the story related to the anniversary that is today. Oh yeah, Lasso.
Tangi di chansan deva tandang ngi samnarwa. Ngi mizindana 좀 den ngusun je yo singharanga konsa draw shoot tabdo.
And really, they made this live action documentary series really well. It was like seeing the Buddha and his family, because it was really characterized very well.
Tadini chomden dig mayam di gombo zoni, ani gombo zoni, kewa khal len yor islamdi, amala di khal kier islamdi, thai ni sumju tsaksam sesatelaya, ani mayam gi kewa jema di. 타이네 숨주 작성라야 개발해서 아니 좀 된데 공부 좀 상기는다 문식 세원디 되는 공기 마염디 아니 숨주 자성라 여바 세니 아니 좀 된디 준추 또기 아니 숨주 자성 내려야 폐 아니 그런 마염 그즈베 아니 라이 니기 아니 도자 남라 아니 최대네 and the dawakashi shubares and dawakashi jil shubarela dini miyu gita ani gyaga gyabo konzu gita ani chomden di tengdos ani pabo monga gi person chomden di gita lomi zo da zunjung wonshi toba mengi yodingi jora an telaya da kerang hago re kuji chomden di dende shiro jingan chomden di tengdos 아니 뭔가 그 보고 아니 좀 된들이야 쉬느라 아니 그냥 다 미유라 마 페브로시스 난좀 미유기 미남 아니 준추요 말이스 문시요 말이 숨주 자성 내려야 그냥 들라 송주샤 송주녀 고급 민도스 숨주 자성 그 하남 준추다 문시 더기 그냥 미유라 슈바야나야 송주녀 두고연자 कुछ क्या म्यूला फेरो चीज अने चमदेन दिता म्यूला मा फेबी निमोद धीरे चागोरेस लारिया र ओ दिनरी गता एन धीरे सोंजी छिया दि तिचे गोरेस
As just recounted, of a week after Buddha was born, his mother died. Then some years later, after Buddha had attained enlightenment, the Buddha used his clairvoyance and had searched for his mother and found her in the heaven of 33, so a particular realm of deities. And he found his mother in that god realm, and he used his miraculous powers to go to that god realm, and he taught his mother and the other gods in that realm, taught them the Buddha Dharma, so he taught them. So he had been away for some months, and then the kings of India, they became concerned because the Buddha had brought such benefit to their lands, to their people, that they requested a senior student of the Buddha's, a senior follower of the Buddha's, Magdalena, who was renowned for having his own miraculous powers, that he could travel between worlds, and requested him, please request Buddha Shakyamuni to return to us pitiful human beings, to leave the God realm and return and continue to guide us. So Magdalena went to the Buddha and made a sincere request on the behalf of the Indian kings and their subjects, that please, Buddha, can you return to the land of humans? Because humans are so limited. They don't have clairvoyance, they don't have miraculous powers, so therefore, lacking clairvoyance, they are unable to receive your teachings when you are in the God realm. Lacking miraculous powers, they cannot ascend to the God realm in the way that Moggallana just had. And then Moggallana continued to the Buddha. But the gods here, they do have clairvoyance and miraculous powers, so they can partake of your teachings in the human realm. So please return to the human realm. And Buddha Shakyamuni, of course, accepted that request. Russell.
대다 다 좀된 디게 공부 시당 좀된 디게 지 낭당도서 시우삼 이미케 같은 데 도스라 응안주 람상 라렌라 따드 투 마르데이냐 가주 톱도지그라 아니 수중은 가주 톱도지기에 아니 라렌 따라와이나 로 년지kom이야 잠복kom이야 베게다 직권 아니 수술라 뇌질레온디 가주 톱도지기에 아니 수주기 샘드 트라우마주와 수주 샘드 콘트리 샤원드 마셔와기 아니 배전 가주 톱도지 제거해야 돼 먼저 랭게레스로 까고라 먼저다 저보고 두고요 말 간스는 간주 줄이야 뉴문투선 요반자 카요 말았더라 먼저 깡주는 간주래 뉴무기 주말이 먼저 그게 도마메는 검된서 요레스 임바이나야 가주 톱도지기로 가주 톱도지 깔게 하고 오늘 간주 아니 좀 된데기다 진주진 비차니 로 기체슈도 차고레스
So today then is the anniversary of when Buddha accepted that request and returned to the world. So the descent from Tushita, for a descent from heaven day. Um, you know, stories of biographies of Buddha, the Buddha and great beings, to us sound quite incredible. It's very far from our lived experience, and that's okay. But what we should take as something of great use, because it is something we can relate to, is his teachings on how to cultivate virtuous minds, such as love and compassion within. So these aren't something incredible, something otherworldly. Those teachings logically make sense. And if we apply ourselves to those teachings a bit, in other words, we learn them and cultivate them, meditate on them, we'll gain some benefits. But if we apply ourselves as best we can to the fullest extent of our capacity, what you can be sure of is your mind will radically, radically alter. The teachings have the capacity to have a radical impact on our mind if we apply them with consistency over a sustained period. By doing so, cultivating minds such as love and compassion, after a while of repeated exertion, these will start to arise more easily. And whilst they're present, you'll feel their impact, you'll feel their benefits. And by continuing to train your mind, developing ever stronger love and compassion, it won't only be in meditation that you're feeling love and compassion and the absence of attachment, jealousy, pride, and anger. But when you are out and about in the world, engaging with others, your mind will still become ever more dominated by love and compassion. And in this way, we are all able to come to gain the full benefit of the teachings of the Buddha. These are very practical and very achievable. And for us who consider ourselves followers of the Buddha, these are the footsteps to follow in. This is how we should emulate him, by cultivating those same minds within us and being a force of good in our world. Lasoken.
Teni labdun di danganzu ra chitso nanglo la ya lega chiyong di ra chik susu gerde mayimba chibik lega chiyo kabdu la ani tsamzam chamandi di anzu kawkala mang kondro sangin ro chikdo as ra dizu magiba chaya ro dizu wani china chegogo maro as kasi nanganzu chibi lega di samba namda ki chigi yobay na ro 강 투바디 아니 수수 삼바 남다 제월 약부로 왔 개지 마투바이나야 수수는 삼바 남다 제여로 왔 인제 델라 로범 제고야다 마기버 제고야 균센스키만 왔 로 거글에 딘디 삼다 마투나 냠뇽 요라 담페나가 저나 아 딘디 용구다 삼바 야부 따와나 수수는 삼바 남다 제자위 제라 아니 만줍나야 경호라 드레스 키메와스 라 난주 쇼 드레스 키요 마라스 디지디기 간지 내가 가르쳐 봐야냐 삼로 가르다 봐야냐 박 배부지 용야지 수술로디 박 배부지 용야지 소고도 아스라
Furthermore, what has been presented here, you should understand that if you cultivate, to the extent you cultivate it in your mind, it will have an impact on you wherever you are and whatever you are doing. And that is the goal, that wherever your mind is active and present, these minds such as love and compassion, ideally, we need to train so they become dominant. And this is important not just when you're on the meditation cushion, not just when you're with your family, but it's also very important when you're engaging in your whatever your role is in society, in other words, whatever job you do, to have minds such as love and compassion guiding you in your place of work is also really of great importance. And to be blunt, is probably also very needed because all too often in our place of work, we have many frustrations and annoyances. We encounter a wide variety of people, sometimes situations we find stressful, they find those situations stressful, and then some conflict can arise, frustration, annoyance, and so forth. There's no benefit from getting angry. There's no benefit in getting upset. This doesn't help anything. Whereas if the mind is calm and clear, then one can navigate problems. Frustrations don't appear as frustrations. Problems are just there to be solved. They do not lead to one getting annoyed. And to bring that about in a place of work, what aids one so is in addition to what the meditation you've been developing within, is in your place of work to keep a motivation that this job I do, I do in order to benefit others. And of course, amongst you, you do a wide variety of different works, different fields of employment. But whatever you do does have an impact on others, even if it's you're working at a desk or if you're working directly with others. Everything we do has an impact on others, whether directly and or indirectly. Have as your motivation, whatever my role is, may it add to our society. And I'll bring about it in a way that I do it as well as I can with a motivation that it adds good to our society. It helps ease the suffering of others. It helps bring benefit to others. And if you think creatively about whatever your job is, you'll find that you can express your job with that motivation. And where this motivation is so useful is you'll still be doing your job as well as you currently do it. But when you encounter problems, you'll want to solve them. And you want to solve them intelligently, therefore without anger, because you want benefit to come to others. And in this way, thinking intelligently like this, wanting to benefit others, you'll experience no loss. You'll only experience benefit, as will all those who directly engage with you, as well as those who indirectly benefit from what you do. So this is a skillful way to take your meditation into your workplace as well, in addition to having minds such as love and compassion, strong and dominant within. That's okay.
이만간저 다 자살 대대들어 genzo lav제게로 아 부수도부 마기바 체와나 아 하장기 샘 부수도보다 마기바 체와나 인 계란 동발이야 니르마마레 그레스 간지 gen고 동반 통그레스 올라 짜가고 마기드레 시마도 팬도요 마레스 딩간저 쇼성거라 gen도 쇼성거레스 자오로레도 아 수수 기부 배워지는 부수도부지 대와나 아니 gen고조가 차도 그레스 아 콜 팬도스게요 마레스
In fact, when I was living in the monastery, our teacher would, amongst the advice he gave us, was he'd say, if you are close-minded or narrow-minded, which leads to being easily enraged, your face will change. You will actually age. You'll get wrinkles much younger than you otherwise would have. Your hair will turn gray years earlier than it otherwise would have. There really is some truth in that. Our way of thinking, our mind, has a direct impact on our physical well-being, on our bodies. That's all.
반든 다와 타바스 라운디다 오늘 타는 남주 표도 중이다 아 산지 좀 된데 다야 야갈을 펴봤다 왜 개버침을 줘라스 공기 캐난기 짜시비기 자와 랍친기 자와지 제기 바이나 대단냠도 참안 들어지 용에 이인바레 송요레스
Did you go with Dao Dakpa Kadisung Soy?
다와 타비에 캐난기 자와 랍친지 제기요 바이나
Jawa Labchen.
레가
Big Gepa, there.
레가 야친부 레가 랍친부 레가 팬도 여버지 제기 여바나 대단냠도 참안 들어지 녀그다지 용에 이인바레스 아
Gosong,
송요레스
Gosong.
야 티질라
Allez, Debado. A great master from ancient India, Chandakirti, he said that when you engage in activities to bring benefit, so whether it's great projects or just small things, but the wish is to bring benefit, one will encounter problems and hardships. That's all.
Tadi nguyo res ta kazna nganzu tawa di tenjong tawa rewas. Ah, tenjong sila ondi yakpu singi di dukja la döne shago res. Ra dukja lapsa jimena yakpu lapsa yo mares. Ah, labchingi chawa tra shiba ji chondi tra mishiba jila teni tra shiba res labgo gorwas. Ra di yong ba res. Ra di yong ba yinzang nganzu tangdu len tu go gores. Ra dindi tangdu len ni ani chawa di tar chin tu ba na ta labchin res. Ta ngone yakbu res. Ra
What Chaniketi said, of course, is really very true. This is how things are. This is how it is in reality. And we understand this through the view of dependent arising. For something to be good means there has to be something that's bad. So only in dependence on there being something bad can something else be called good. Likewise, for something to be welcome and wanted depends on there being something unwanted. For something to be auspicious means there has to be something inauspicious. If there's nothing inauspicious, how could you say something was auspicious? There is an interdependency between these things. So therefore, we know when we engage in beneficial activities, small or great, there will be problems encountered. That's okay.
도전아. Thank you.
Then thank you very much. Thank you very much.
chanju semjo rumbochi maji banam ji gyurchi jewa nyamba me bayang kone kondu bewar sho. Thank you so much.